This is DRF Race of the Day. Hi everybody, Dan Illman here with the DRF Race of the Day for Christmas Eve 2021. Let's take a look at the field for the $100,000 H. Allen Jerkens Stakes. It's race number 10, closing out the card at Gulfstream Park on Friday. You can download free Formulator Pass performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Access them and handicap along with me. And when it's time for you to place your wagers, you can bet this race as well as the entire Gulfstream card with your DRF Bets account. Trainer Michael Maker, not surprisingly, is very well represented. He is just a guru with these longer distance turf horses. But as we take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector, it's a non-Maker trainee expected to make the lead, and that's the number 3, Aban, who has been on the front in his last 3 races for trainer Todd Pletcher, including a recent gate-to-wire score at Aqueduct. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I would expect an aggressive Luis Saez to send Aban to the front, and we'll see if he can stay the 2-mile distance. Thus far, 11 furlongs hasn't been a problem. It's still a pretty big stretch out. It's a big step up in class for the number 1 on base. We'll take a look at his most recent race, a $25,000 starter allowance over the Tapeta surface at Gulfstream Park 13 days ago. No excuses for this horse. He outran his 41 to 1 odds. He prompted the pace in here. It was a very slow pace for the distance. He held on well to be third. Perhaps he'll show a little bit of speed, stretching out and switching back to turf, but he's really going to have to step it up as he makes his stakes debut in his 20th lifetime start. The 2 is Malthael, a horse that is trained by Michael Maker, claimed by Maker for $35,000 during the spring. This horse was an entry-level allowance winner at Keeneland at 1.5 miles 2 starts back. I find the last race fascinating. I think Maker used the most recent start, a 1-mile race over the Turfway Polytrack, as nothing more than a prep for this. Malthael had never raced on a synthetic surface before. For him, a mile is a very sharp distance, and Malthael, understandably, didn't run very well against a pretty good field. The third-place finisher would come back to hit the board in the Prairie Bayou Stakes at Turfway with an 85 Beyer speed figure. Now Malthael is returning to his favorite surface on turf. He's stretching out to a distance that I feel he'll be really comfortable at, and this horse just looks like an interesting runner with a 91 Beyer 2 starts back, going 1.5 miles on the grass. I would not be surprised at all if he comes with a late run at the end of this race at a decent price. The 3 is Aban. Let's watch his most recent start at Aqueduct. Now, if you look at the fractions for this race, 1/2 mile 51, 3/4 16 and 1. Looks like Aban was controlling slow splits. If you look at your Timeform US pace ratings for the field, they're red. They believe that Aban set a legitimate pace this day, and he's able to hold off Giro. They ran 1-2, and I think they had the 2 best trips. Aban controlling the pace, Giro sitting in the pocket. Giro will try Aban again, but Aban to me looks like a horse that will just stay on, and if he is able to relax on an easy early lead, he might attempt to sprint home in a similar fashion as we just saw in that most recent race. The number 4 is A Journey to Freedom, and A Journey to Freedom has already raced at 2 miles, and he's done well at 2 miles. Third in the Grade 2 Belmont Gold Cup back in June. He was a winner in a subsequent start at Saratoga on July the 23rd. I really liked that race a lot. He didn't break well. He was last on the rail early. He tried to go up the inside, turning into the stretch. He had to check an upper stretch, altered course sharply to the outside, and he still was able to run down that field. He did a lot of work in that race. In 3 subsequent stake starts, it hasn't worked out for him. His last effort, the Sycamore, kind of an even performance. He is a 1-run closer. He needs a little bit of pace up front. I think the distance is good for him, and he has a race or 2 that can make him competitive. I'm just not sure I completely trust him. He'll have to be a nice price for me to back. The 5 is Nixon Joy, and I don't want to be too hard on this horse because he's going to be a huge price, but the horse is eligible for a non-winners of 2 life. He's raced twice on turf in his career, and he's finished last in both of those turf races. He needs to improve. a great deal, and perhaps he needs a lot of other things to happen in order for him to pull off a shocker. As for Giroux, we saw him finish second behind Abaan last time out in that allowance race. Maker took this horse for $40,000 in July at Belmont, and while he hasn't gone over the hump for Maker yet, you've seen the steady improvement with each and every start. He was a bit closer to the pace last time out, which makes me think those fractions were slower than Timeform US is giving them credit for. Usually Giroux is the kind of horse that likes to rate and finish. Maybe he has newfound tactical speed. He's relatively lightly raced with some upside potential. I think this horse needs a bit of improvement, but it's Maker. He's going to be a good price in this race, and I wouldn't be surprised at 2 miles if anything happens. The 7 is Cheyenne's Colonel. This is a horse that's only 2 for 29 in his career. His last win came in 2019, going 7.5 furlongs. Obviously needs a good amount of improvement. He has raced in stakes competition before. He hasn't been able to crack the board in any of those 5 races, I believe, and Cheyenne's Colonel needs to do a little bit better. Looking at the number 8, Bluegrass Parkway, another entrant trained by Maker. This horse was third in the race we're going to show you right now. The point of entry at Belmont on October the 24th, going 1.5 miles, and he ran into a good horse in Sham Rocket in here. He finished third. He flattened out just a bit at the end of this race, but the pace was solid. He made a run into it, and he understandably tired. 3 starts back at Ellis Park. He was a stakes winner going 1.25 miles. He then caught Walton Street, that European invader that freaked with a giant Beyer speed figure at Woodbine in the Canadian International. I'm not going to hold that race over wet ground against him. Bluegrass Parkway, to me, is the kind of horse that can come with a late kick. He has races that are fast enough to win this, and to me, distance isn't going to be an issue. The number 9 is Fantasioso. I am a huge fan of Fantasioso. I'm a little disappointed that he hasn't gotten into the winner's circle since shipping to North America for trainer Nacho Correas. I liked him a lot in the Belmont Gold Cup, where he finished ahead of A Journey to Freedom. It looked like he was making a very bold run turning into the stretch. He just got tired late, and since then it's just been an in and out situation for Fantasioso. On good turf courses in his last 2, the last race I'm willing to give him a little bit of a mulligan for. He didn't break very well. He didn't do too much after that, passing some tired horses. But Fantasioso, to me, is the kind of horse that's sitting on a win one of these days. It just hasn't happened yet, and I think he might take some money based on his company lines. He does fit this race very well. He does run well at 2 miles. But like a couple of others in here, he might be a bit pace dependent, and I just don't see the pace being very fast at the 2 mile distance. Pace makes the race a lot of times in North American racing. We usually talk about 6 furlong races on the dirt. I'm talking about a 2 mile race on the turf, and it still might make the race. I'm going with my top pick of the 3, Abaan. Todd Pletcher, not surprisingly, has gotten off to a great start at this Gulfstream Championship meeting, and this horse should be able to control the pace from the start. He's my top pick in the H. Allen Jerkens, the feature race on Christmas Eve, and our DRF race of the day. Good luck.